right, what's up, guys? Are we rolling? Are we live? Folks, we've never done one of these recaps live, so we're all going to kind of get through this together. All right, let's do this. What are you saying there? Mr. Jolly, let it rip. All right, I guess that we're live. All right, let's do this. Let's get a little ground rules here. I'm going to work in ascending order. I'll work from the top, start with the main event, kind of go backwards through my week, even take you through the MMA words. Even a big announcement that Dana made about Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. And then I'm going to get to your guys' questions. But let's do it in that order. Let me take my glasses off so I don't have to see your questions. Let's work this out, guys. Now, why it would ever frustrate me if a guy burns his own career, I don't know. That was a great job by two really good athletes. And perhaps that should be celebrated. Perhaps we should leave it there. I made a mark on this sport. I want credited for that. That's the truth. I don't ever bring it up. I want you guys to bring it up. And when you do, I act like, oh, shucks. Oh, really? Gee, thank you for saying that. But that's an act. I know that I came in, and I know that I innovated. I know that I revolutionized, and I changed the way this sport is done. From being interesting to creating storylines to if you have a problem, tell the world you have a problem. It is not honorable to bow to a guy's face and stab him in the back when he turns around. I will tell you to your face that I'm going to put a knife in your back, and when you turn around, I will. And that's the mark I left on the sport. I want to be world champion. I didn't get to become world champion. And so I did other things. And when you get done with your career, you can be disappointed about what didn't happen, or you can look back fondly on what did. So when I tell you that I made that mark, and I watch people who studied the blueprint, understood and appreciated it, I feel it's a sign of great respectfulness to me. I'm shining my own wheels. Am I wrong to think that? Am I wrong to think when a Conor McGregor comes out and he's doing box office numbers and he pays me a credit as to why he approached his career from the media perspective that he did, that it makes me feel good? And it does. Am I wrong? And it is for that arrogantness. And I know everything that I just said is disgusting. I do know that. But I'm attempting to look inward to explain, and maybe even to help myself to understand, my absolute frustration by a new guy, a younger guy, a different generation of guy that either did not pay attention, didn't mark Chael down on the list of guys to be like, didn't take the time to understand it, or did both of those things, and in the moment can't keep it together. Conor McGregor is the type of performer that, while broken in half, he does an interview from the canvas because he can't stand. And before they fade to black and roll the credits, before Conor body goes into shock, which is quite literally what happens if you were to look down and see your leg dangling, he held it together and he entertained the audience until the final moment. Challenging Dustin Poirier, bringing up something with the DMs, worked the family into it. It was nasty. And people were talking about it. They were saying what a bad sport he was. What a terrible thing that he did. Do you have evidence from Conor doing that he's a bad sport and a terrible person? Or do you have evidence from Conor doing that he lives the gimmick anytime the cameras are on, like the truly great performers do. You can come to that conclusion on your own. When Conor McGregor returns, without any kind of discussion and or debate, it will be to a main event. There is not a person on the UFC's roster that is guaranteed to make a main event that includes their champions. Many of their champions will fight in co-main event spots. If you can't understand the message in that, there's not a lot more that I can do. I don't know that Jan Blachowicz will be fighting for a world championship next. I don't know. They might just rematch this contest. They might. I don't know. But I know that Blachowicz had the exact same result tonight, and I do mean exact, that Ankalaev had, and I can absolutely assure you Ankalaev's next match will be for a world championship. Now, will that be against Jon? Will that be against Glover? Will that be somebody else that rises up and comes up? I don't know. But unless they do a rematch, Blachowicz will not be fighting for the belt. And Blachowicz did that to himself. I did not think tonight's contest was a draw. Just so you understand. I thought Blachowicz won rounds 1, 2, and 3 and lost rounds 4 and 5. 1, 2, and 3 were very close and very competitive, and 4 and 5 were extremely obvious. But we don't go by pride rules. We don't go by one championship rules. We don't go by Bellator's rules. We went under Nevada's rules, who has adopted the unified rules as set forth by the Associated Boxing Commission President Mike Mazzulli. And 1, 2, and 3 were close. They were competitive. I just thought Jan won. That's not the hill that I want to die on. I thought Jan won the first 3. I text message privately, I'll leave names out of it, 3 licensed judges prior to the decision being read. Not a group text. These are all separate. And I said, did Jan win the first 3 rounds? Guessing, of course, question mark. All 3 of them wrote back yes. So I did not think that tonight was a draw. I thought that Jan Blachowicz won. Now, I don't want to argue with you back and forth and get into that. You tell me how you think Ankalaev won. When the whole thing's over and Jan concedes to Ankalaev, to hear Joe Rogan say, hey man, you're an honorable guy. And that was a fair comment by Joe. Like, that really was a cool thing when you can tip your hat, right? There is something about that that's very appropriate. As a matter of fact, if we were to just back up one fight, Paddy the Baddy lost, and not only did he not say he lost, he said that he dominated. Not only say he dominated, he said he coasted to victory. I'm just sharing for you a juxtaposition that you've seen in the last hour. You have seen 2 decisions come in the last hour with a vastly different response from the athlete. I do not know if Jan, here's the final analysis, guys. I do not know if Jan's next match will be for the World Championship. I guarantee you Ankalaev's will. Whoever Ankalaev's opponent is, his next match will be for a World Championship. The only outside possibility that Jan will be fighting for a World Championship next is if they rematch this match that no one wanted to see in the first place. I don't say that to be a dick. I say that because, right, you need politics and you need business and you need the swinging of the needle and you need the media. You need a lot of things to get on your side to go get a rematch. And none of those things happened once. I'm going to use history as the greatest trajectory to the future. That seems to make a level of sense. Do you see the difference, though? Do you see the difference? Do you see what my point is? Two guys tonight had the exact same result. One of them will be fighting for a world championship next. For sure. And one of them, pretty good guess that he's not. Now, one of the worst persons to judge a match truly is the athlete that was in the match. They were a competitive 3 rounds. Jon damaged Ankalaev. Well, that's an interesting word, Chael. Guess come to think of it, he did damage not 1 but 2 of his legs. Very visibly. Well, some bitch, Chael, now that you bring up that point, the number 1 criteria for judging is damage. Ankalaev did not damage Jon. Now, the number 2 criteria is octagon control, and Ankalaev did have that. Okay, great. Ankalaev won the number 2 criteria. Jon won the number 1 criteria. So he's got a short-term memory, got held down, he's a little frustrated, wasn't competitive. Did not look good for Jon. I mean, you gotta look good on bottom. You got to be hustling, you got to be maneuvering, you got to be doing stuff. He was sailing it. He looked like a guy that was frustrated. Didn't have any kind of answer and was looking to protect himself. And defense in life is very important. If you want to compete in martial arts, you must have offense. They're going to continue to sign you up for classes telling you self-defense. If you want to win in competitive combat, you got to have self-offense. And Jon was conceding that point. Hey, listen, for the last memory, matter of fact, about 10 minutes here, wasn't doing so great. And Jon, that's fair. That's reasonable. That's what he said. That's no way to get yourself a fight. That's no way to position yourself. These 2 guys just had the exact same result. One of them will be fighting for a world title next. Paddy the Baddy was gifted a decision that he did not earn. Said that he did. Said he won them all. Said, matter of fact, that he coasted. I was in the arena. Anderson Silva versus Nick Diaz. And Anderson beat him for 25 straight minutes. When that match was over, Nick did an interview with Joe, had his arm around him, talking very calmly. Joe asked Nick his thought of the fight. Nick said, I thought I won all 5 rounds. And you would not believe it. 15,000 people there, all 15,000 had then forgotten what they just saw. Isn't that weird? I mean, it's a weird piece about human psychology. It's a very strange piece of it. And I was there and I was part of it. I got to look myself in the mirror and go, hey, wait a minute. I just saw Anderson beat this guy for 25 minutes. I forgot when Nick said he won them all. It was a weird thing, but I'm sharing with you. It's just very interesting. It's very important how you go out. Now, Ankalaev didn't take the high road. Did any of you think Ankalaev was a bad sport tonight? I mean, if the goal here for Jon was not positioning yourself, not setting yourself up for the future, which comes with a prize and a payment that you owe to your family. It's a big damn deal. People love to tell you friendships come first. Family comes first. By God, work comes first. Work comes before everything. And if work isn't going well, your family's not going to be very happy. So for the pat on the back that you are an honorable guy, which is all he gets. That was all that he was given. And then he steered into it. Boy, he liked hearing Joe say that about him. Oh, his chest puffed out. He got a middle-aged comic telling him that he's an honorable guy. Did you think Ankalaev was unhonorable? Because Ankalaev did the exact opposite thing. So you can't say yes to Jon and say yes to Ankalaev. It was the exact opposite. Ankalaev said, I won, I beat him, that should be my belt. I don't know what happened here. I won this fight. Did you find anything rude about that? Because there was nothing rude, and you didn't find it that way either. He shared his opinion. Now, they didn't ask him real questions, such as, did you damage him more than he damaged you? They didn't ask him real questions, such as, if you won the fight, what rounds was it that you won? You won 4 and 5. We all saw that. But between 1 and 3, which round did you think you won? Because in one of them, he damaged your right leg, and in the other one, he damaged your left leg. So make your case for us just so we understand it. They don't ask him anything like that. Ankalaev did exactly what he should have done, 100%. Blachowicz just took opportunities from himself and food off his family's table. It's no less than that. There's nothing even slightly dramatic about that. Blachowicz could have said that, guys, I damaged him. He went from southpaw to orthodox back to his legs were so bad he took the damn thing to the ground. And I did that over 3 rounds, which on a 10-9 must system means I won 3-2. I gave him the 2. He was laying on top of me. We weren't prepared for championship rounds. My lungs didn't hold up. All I had to do was run out of the clock. He could have said anything in the world. He didn't do any of those things. He wanted to look like a good spirit. I take it as a personal disrespect. How do you like that? I'm aware of the narcissism in that statement. That is how I take it. They had a dead even tie. They did the exact same thing. Exact, with the exact same result. Well, how do you say that? How do you say that you guys had the exact same result when one guy is going to use that result to go and fight for a world championship and it isn't going to be with you? How do you say that's the same result? How do you possibly look at this any other way than Ankalaev won? If Ankalaev got the belt, his next fight is a main event for the belt. Ankalaev's next fight is going to be a main event for the belt. And he didn't do it. Jon did it. I mean, it's a tough spot. Jon is 39 years old. He was a 2-1 underdog when it was scheduled for 3 rounds. When it became 5 rounds, DraftKings moved it. Now it was 265, but that's, for my terms, for colloquialism, he moves to a 3-1 underdog. That's how disrespected he was. He hurt his opponent. We don't need an injury list from Jon. Jon could go fight in a week. We do need a report on Ankalaev. We're probably going to have to run some scans. An MRI on both legs is likely. I don't know when he's going to fight again. It's not going to be next week. Has his best moments laying on top of guy. Not posturing, pounding, or passing. None of those 3 things. Now, he dominated. He kept that position as a... I respect it. I got no problem with it. I thought they were going to raise Jon's hand. I don't think he had a draw tonight. I think Jon won. It's a very tough thing when you beat the hell out of somebody below the waist. Oh, I'm getting a text. I just need to make sure it's not from my partner, Ryan. Hold on. This is our first live. He may not like the way that I'm doing it. All right. So whatever. What's the point in even talking about it? I mean, honestly, what is the point? Jon is 39 years old. I didn't realize that until yesterday. I understood the politics working against Glover. I don't agree with them. I think that older fight, I think that's a great story. And not as an older guy. When I was a young person, there was a swimmer named Dara Torres that returned and made an Olympic team. She was 42 years old. I thought it was great. When I was a younger guy, there was a quarterback. His name was Brett Favre, and I don't know how old he was, 44 is what I want to say. And Brett Favre admired Randy Couture and asked Randy questions. How do you do this? Because Randy also at 44 beats Tim Sylvia and becomes champion of the world. I think there's something interesting to the older fighter. What I'm sharing with you is Glover is 40 and he was the old man. Blachowicz was 39. I didn't know that. We saw that for whatever reason, the older fighter isn't getting over today. For whatever reason. Whatever's in front of that, that's a very real phenomenon. The guy's the same age. And then he goes and shoots himself in the foot. He had the exact same result. Exact. Except he didn't. All right, let's back it up one. Paddy the Baddy has not shown me anything in his last two fights. And I just got to go with those two. The two before that were garbage. He has not shown me anything in his last two fights that would disqualify him from being a potential future world champion. He's awesome. And Paddy is weaponizing the weight cut. Guys have done that before. It hasn't been done in a period of time. The first guy to ever really weaponize a weight cut where they talked about it and he would get credit was Rich the Ace Franklin. Fought at 185 pounds. On fight day, one day later, he would weigh 202 pounds, very consistently. 185 here and 202 over here. And Rich had it down to a science. Other guys after Rich that tried to pull that same amount of weight got fatigued, they got tired, they got run down. The narrative didn't come out about how well they did it and how well they hydrated, the size that they had over their opponent. The narrative was, hey, maybe he should change weight classes. And then every now and then you get a guy trying to copy Rich's format. He would go ahead and not even make weight. We don't have a lot of guys that really know how to do that. And I don't know that Paddy is some kind of an expert, that he's got a Mike Dolce type guy with him. But maybe we should start to look at, hey, how are you doing that? What are you doing not just to make the weight, but far more importantly is the question that people don't ask, how did you recover? They took IVs away. What are you doing? Do you have a special drink? Some guys believe in salt. Some guys believe in sugar. Want to check their sodiums and the electrolyte. There's most likely it's absolutely none of those things. This is just what he does. But I will share with you, he looked like a massively larger opponent. Meaningfully larger opponent. One thing that Gordon does not have. I thought Gordon won that fight. Matter of fact, I thought it was 30-27. Now, with that said, I also don't argue the call. And I wouldn't say it was a bad call. It was a really competitive 30-27. I just said, okay, Gordon edged him out there. Yeah, okay, Gordon edged him again. My perspective. The live audience didn't really come to that opinion. And the live audience will let you know. Even if they're your own countrymen that have flown in to see you, they still want a fair adjudication. It's just one thing about fight fans that you can really appreciate and respect. So it was a close fight. They gave it to Paddy. But when I do look at Gordon, Gordon was not blessed at birth, right? DNA. With some of the natural athleticism that athletes to this caliber have. You can tell that's a man that's worked hard. That's a man who wanted something and went after. I mean, you can just see that. Athleticism is very difficult to define. I know it when I see it. And so do you guys. Remember PE class? This is before anybody has any actual training. You're in the 5th grade. You're in the 6th grade. PE class. They're making up weird games that you've never seen before. We had one called Prison Break when I played. Of course, dodgeball was a big one. But they make up games for you guys to play. But every single day, there's a guy that's better at these made-up games than everybody else. Right? That's the athlete. That's the guy that has this athleticism I'm talking about. Gordon wouldn't win those games in PE. You could tell that he was a very hard and determined, gritty, tough guy. Gordon deserves a ton of credit. Now, one thing we've got to give Paddy, that chin. I mean, goddamn, the first thing you're going to learn in fight practice, and I do mean on day number 1, it is not a jab. It's not to skip rope. The first thing you will learn is hands up, chin down. Now, the closer a guy gets to the pros, The further those hands go down and the more the chin comes up. There's just something about that. And the fans don't know. Like, the guy doesn't get credit for it. He wants credit for it. He's attempting to tell a story to the viewer that I'm so good, I can break the basic rule. I can have my chin up and my hands down, right? The guy, he'll do it in the amateurs. The closer he gets to the pros, the worse that stance gets. Paddy has a bad stance. It's not awful, but it's bad. His chin is up. And Gordon made him pay for it. Well, not so fast. What would have been paying for it, turned out Paddy could take it. Gordon hits him with a hook. If you go back and you watch the fight, he hits him with a hook so flush, right on this cheek. I couldn't believe it. It was so hard. Paddy kept his eyes right on him. Didn't even flinch. We've got to give Paddy some of those nods. We really do. Now, whenever there's an upset, there are some commonalities in all of them. You go back, Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson, Amanda Nunes, Juliana. Any upset that you've ever seen, the person upset found themselves in a situation that was harder than they thought it was going to be. And when you play those scenarios through in your head, you're thinking of bad stuff. I get pinned down here, I get put in this position, my eyes closed, my nose broken, there's 1 minute left. Like, you play these different terrible scenarios in your head. But there's nothing you can do inside to create an idea and a mental approach if a match turns out to be harder than you thought it was going to be. Paddy found himself in just that tonight. Gordon brought it more than Paddy knew he was going to. And Paddy met him. Paddy matched it. Paddy had a lot of the things that go into upsets, and he still found a way to win. We got to give him a little bit of credit here. We got to give him a little bit of due. Paddy is also breaking some rules, and he's getting away with them. One of them, to become a star, you must call people out. You must have an enemy, a rival, a nemesis. You must. You must. If you go back and you look at everybody that ever made it in this business, you're only going to find a couple of things. If you study them all, you're going to find a couple of commonalities. That is one of them. Paddy doesn't have it, and he's getting over anyway, and that's interesting. Paddy's great rival and nemesis actually fought tonight. He had an incredible win over Bryce Mitchell, but they're different weight classes. They're not going to get matched up. That's interesting to me. It's interesting to me that he does have a rival. He does have a nemesis. Oh, by the way, he's never going to find him in there. It's very interesting. Made the press conference very interesting. Made Paddy's interviews very interesting. But Paddy is getting away with one. If he had me in a private room and could get advice, if he had Conor in a private room and he could get advice, at some point we would both tell him that. You need to find an opponent. You need to find a rival. You need to find a nemesis. You need to get something going. Whether it happens or not, you got to have something going, something you can talk about in the media. It can be this guy and you talk about your other guy. You find something that you get attached to, that you build from. He's not doing it, and he's getting over. Paddy's an interesting one. I thought he was a mouthy little clever guy with a weird haircut. He's not. Well, yes, he is a mouthy little guy with a weird haircut. He's not only that. Paddy can fight. Paddy is a competitor. He had to compete tonight. Because Gordon was really bringing that to him. And I thought that there should be something about that for Paddy. I thought that should be mentioned. Now, guys, did you happen to catch Dana had done an interview? It might have been with Paddy, now that I say that. Dana had done an interview, and he just talked about what's next for Conor McGregor, and Dana said Chandler. And Dana prefaced it with some other word, like leaning towards Chandler. Looks like Chandler. Probably going to be Chandler. There was some word where this wasn't a straight announcement, but boy, it was close. Conor McGregor has never turned down a fight. Now, we see Conor calling people out all the time, and everybody bites. Every Red Panty Night, it's this real thing, and everybody goes in that direction. And we see other guys calling out Conor McGregor, trying to get some attention, well aware that red panty night is a real thing. It's very, very different when Dana speaks about it, which, by the way, this is the first time. Dana's never said no to anything on Conor McGregor. When Dana gets asked, he is quick to defend Conor McGregor, including to give him a world title fight. That Conor McGregor could walk in to, at the time he said, to Kamaru Usman. That Conor McGregor could walk in at the time to Charles Oliveira. But when Dana made this point, and he was sticking up for Conor, Dana's message was, Conor has never told us no. We have never asked him to do anything, and he's told us no. So yes, if Conor comes and all of a sudden he has an idea, I am apt to return that to him. So when Dana comes out and he's saying, I would like for you to fight Michael Chandler, he's going to be fighting Michael Chandler. And you know what? That's an interesting match. First off, where are those boys going to fight at? I would think you'd just go do it at 170. Holidays had just passed us, so it was very early January when Conor and Cowboy put their fight together. It's like January 19th, this is off the top of my head. But Dana talked about it. He said, look, it was the holidays, so you got two 55-pounders, okay? Just pretend, Dana actually said this, pretend you've got a 55-pound fight. It's going to affect the 55-pound rankings. This is going to affect the 55-pound class. Oh, by the way, we're going to do it at 170. And I think that you might have more of a situation like that. I don't know how much Conor wants to cut to 155 pounds. Making that weight is not just physical. I know it appears that way. It's not. If you're not mentally committed to that physicality, you're not going to make it. Now, that's a conversation for another day. I just think that it's interesting if they do that at 170. Because Michael Chandler, as great of a wrestler as he is, has not been going out and taking people down for two reasons. One, he's not trying to. He is not out there trying to get takedowns, not like you would think a two-time All-American wrestler would. He's also not getting all the takedown that he's looking for. He's been doing a little bit more damage with his fist. So now all of a sudden, you got a little bit more of a stand-up fight than you would ever think you were going to have with Conor McGregor, and you will never count Conor McGregor out in a fist fight. Not after he went 30 minutes with Floyd Mayweather, right? I mean, it's one of those things. And then what happens if they go up there? What happens if Chandler beats him? Oh, by the way, they did it at 170. Do those guys agree with Dana that, well, just pretend we did it at 55? Or is all of a sudden Michael Chandler going, yeah, I'm a 70-pounder. Find me a 70-pounder. Hey, Masvidal, what are you up to? I mean, all of a sudden the parity gets very interesting. And I feel very comfortable in telling you guys we are finally locked in and we can finally look into a direction for what's next for Conor, which is Chandler. It's for the reasons I just laid out. Dana said it. Conor's never said no. We're well aware that Chandler is open to anything. Chandler was the only guy trying to fight Makhachev for a period of time. So I'm just sharing with you, right? Like, I mean, that's an interesting thing. Now, let's take a step back again. I was at the World MMA Awards. And there's not very many things that we agree on in this industry. For example, I haven't said anything tonight that you guys agree with. Soon as I said that I thought Gordon beat Patty, let alone I thought he could have had him 30-27. Whoa, we got a big argument. We should. That's fair. As soon as I tell you that Jan and Ankalaev had the exact same result, except they didn't because the reward is going to be very different for one guy. When I tell you that I thought Jan beat him 3-2, my point is we don't agree on anything over here. Except the pound for pound list. Who is the current GOAT? We accept whatever gets published and printed. And we may not like it, but we will give it to the guy. And we accept the World MMA Awards. Whoever wins those awards, we accept it. I'll use the great Ariel Helwani. I think they've had 13 of these things. If they've had 13, he's won it 13 times. If Ariel's a 14-time champion, that just means they've had 14 award shows. And as mad as you want to be at Ariel and all the shots you want to take at Ariel, you will call him the unbeaten journalist of the year. There's just something about our acceptance of that. And you know what? I stay out of it. I think that that's good form. I think if I'm going to be in the suit and on the other side of the apron, that I need to be unbiased. And I see myself as that. If I have an experience with a guy, if he was a teammate, if he was a trading partner, if he came up to me and he said something nice to me, I will come and disclose that to you guys. And I will give you my predictions. I will tell you who I think is going to win. But I don't ever do it because the guy said something nice to me or he was my teammate. I will disclose. This is how I see myself. I see myself as a very objective voice. Understanding of oneself is hard for all of us, but that's how I see myself, so I don't ever get involved in this. Mark Goddard was referee of the year. I've got to tell you, I was so excited. I was so happy that he won. And Mark Goddard, when I speak of him to you guys, when I tell you this is what you want from your officials, this is who you want officiating you, there's only about 2% of me that actually means the human being that came into the Goddard family whose parents at birth named him Mark. Like 98% of it, much is an image and idea. You want somebody that is as dedicated as he is. You want somebody with the integrity that he is. You want somebody with the courage to make a call. You want somebody that respects the jurisdictions enough that every jurisdiction he ends, he understands the fine point intricacies so he can give an accurate interpretation to the officiating. I'll tell you this. If there was a private room and Mark Goddard got to cast a ballot for who the referee of the year was, if that happened, and nobody would ever know what he said, ever, I guarantee he would not have voted for himself. And he wouldn't have voted for somebody else as a way of being nice or as a way of being polite. Dude, can you go over to Emma? Dude, buddy, can you go to Emma? Thank you, pal. He wouldn't have done that to be polite. He truly doesn't view himself as that. He does not feel he's a finished product. He is always looking to improve. He is always looking to get better. And when he got recognized in front of our community in an event that was purely voted on by the community, I got to tell you guys, good job. You got it right. And there's a whole story of our officials that you do miss. And it's not your fault. That's not what you're there to see. No part of the $50 that you had to pitch in, chip in, or decide to part with to buy the event, no part of it, not one penny, came down to who one of the officials was. The judges, the referee, timekeeper, executive director, none, zero. I understand that. But there's still stuff that's happening there that I do think that you need to be aware of, just to appreciate it. I mean, we had an official, Mark Ratner, be recognized and inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is where he belongs, but we need more of that. I want to give you guys an example. For the main event, you will hear Bruce Buffer read out who the judges are. You don't see him do that at any other time. And just so you know, that's not just because the promoter told him to. That's not because the director who wrote the show sheet added it in there. The promoter did tell him to, and the show sheet does say to do it, but they're doing that for a reason, and the reason's really never been identified for you guys. Those three people who are judging a world title fight, what those names and that positioning is representative of is a life's dedication. When those three little names get called out, you need to understand how many airplanes, how many hotel rooms, how many days away from their family, how many courses, how many lectures, how many rounds, how many times not even getting gas money, driving down to the local YMCA, the local POW club, out at the dog park, to work their way up, to have the experience, and to gain the respect, to then rise above the rest and be assigned to a world title fight. There is a trust that comes with it, and you do not just get that. You don't just raise your hand. You're not just friends with the governor. Does not work that way. There is scrutiny, and you are judged, and you are looked at, and you're not going to get anything for it. And please don't correct me and tell me that those people are paid. Please don't do that. Please do not do that. The opportunity cost alone, the time away from your family, the meals that get quite literally, please don't tell me they're paid. That is people who care, and it's representative of something larger, and they don't get credit, and they won't. It goes that way, and they're not going to. One person ever in the form of Mark Ratner got that public credit, but we should consider doing more of that. You guys voted, and you gave it to Goddard. And I was proud of you guys. You really did get that right. Now, I want to get some questions. I've got a few on screen here. I've got to throw my glasses on. Dana White has announced at the press conference, so that means just now, booked new light heavyweight title fight next month in Brazil, Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill. Now, oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. When would have he booked that? When would have he booked that? They just fought for the world title. If he knew he was going to do a world title next month in Brazil and that Glover Teixeira was going to be part of it, he would have been finding out who his opponent was tonight. You've got guys that deadlock, draw, and lit their own opportunities on fire. So now you insert Jamal Hill. Now, I imagine Jamal had been called prior to this, and I imagine Glover was called prior to this. Neither one of them knew that it was a world title fight. They didn't call before Dana made that announcement. He was probably planning to announce it's going to be Glover versus Jamal Hill. He never thought he was going to put the strap up, and now the strap's up. And by the way, there was some of you that said that Glover got screwed. And you'll remember me defending this decision, and my exact words were as follows. Glover was told his next fight would be a main event for the World Championship. He was told that he's the #1 contender. We have no evidence currently that Glover's next fight won't be a main event and it won't be for the World Championship. We had no evidence that Glover was not, in fact, still the #1 contender. And I tried to bring this point to you. I think I succeeded, at least rhetorically, but now it's a massive I told you so. I mean, this is a massive I told you so. So there was no screwing of Glover. Glover remained in the same position with the same opportunity. And I feel I could go a step further. I feel as though prior to that fight happening in a month, somewhere prior to that, it's not going to be tomorrow, I feel that the announcement will come out that the winner of Jamal and Glover is going to be fighting on Goliath. We'll see how that goes. There might be a heavyweight with the sense that God gave Geese, a light heavyweight, that comes out and rocks that boat immediately. But it's unlikely. I have very little faith in him. I got to tell you guys something about Jamal Hill. The first time I saw Jamal Hill fight, and I remember the piece I made on him. I came to you guys. I remember my opening line. I said, guys, Jamal Hill, I don't know if I could like this guy anymore. I liked the way he walked to the ring. He had a swagger. I liked the way he fought. I liked his interview. I liked the way that he left. This was the first time that I saw him. To see that young man in a world title opportunity, this is outstanding. I got to see Jamal fight live one time. And it did not go well. He was taking on Paul Craig, and Paul Craig, I mean, boy, he looked like Gordon Ryan out there. He really did. He was flowing and his hips were moving and he did this goofy arm thing. And Jamal refused to give up and his arm was all... You came away respecting them both. You came away going, man, Craig is incredible at jiu-jitsu. You don't have light heavyweights that move like this. You truly do. I mean, Gordon Ryan-esque in the middle of MMA with guys punching at him. And then you have Jamal Hill, who never even grimaced, never even made a face. Do you remember the night Sakuraba tore Renzo Gracie's arm off? But I mean, do you remember when he tore it all out of position and Renzo got up and his face was completely straight as he congratulated Sakuraba? Now, Renzo was a legend going into that fight. That helped to solidify it. And I can tell you, I saw Jamal Hill do that same thing. I'm very happy for Jamal Hill. I got to tell you, that's great news for Glover. Not to mention, it's in Brazil. Glover's got to be the favorite in that fight. 1 month? Guys, that's not long. Even if Jamal got tipped off, you're going to be fighting Glover in a main event. That's not a lot of time to prepare for that kind of exertion, particularly when you have a guy like Glover who has weaponized pace very early on in his career. He was known for his endurance. Glover Teixeira's videos that used to get the most clicks when he was a fighter, he won like 19 in a row, but it was a visa issue. He couldn't get to the UFC. There was something goofy about it that held him back. His actual fights, and as great as his record was, didn't get as good of clicks as Glover doing CrossFit style workouts. Glover jump up on the bar and he'd do all of these pull-ups and he'd come over to the rope and he'd do these squat jumps and it was this amazing thing. He'd jump on top of boxes. I would rewind and watch that over and over. Now, I only bring that to you because Glover is really known for his endurance, and for Jamal to get put in that kind of position, let alone on home territory, I believe that Glover is going to be a favorite. That's interesting. Because if Glover comes out with the belt, who do you want to see him fight next? Who's in line to fight him next? It would appear Ankalaev. I think cooler heads could prevail, and Ankalaev and Blachowicz need to fight. I would think that's what a deadlock draw would generally represent. But for the UFC to have made this decision and to move on as quickly as right now, that's excellent. I mean, this is what dreams are made out of, and this is why, if you want to make it in this business, you always got to be ready. It is much better, guys, and please always remember this, it is much better in life to be prepared for an opportunity that never comes than to have an opportunity come and you're not prepared. At anything you do, please remember that. Now, how does Paddy do against a top 10 lightweight? He does fine. What you saw tonight, first off, Paddy looked very good. He has skills everywhere. Paddy's a sumbitch to take down. He's also got goofy submissions. I mean, he had one tonight that almost worked. He was reaching over and he put him like in a rear naked choke, except he was in guard. So a little bit to the side and he came over the top. I mean, Paddy's a bear. If you're going to go take him down, you got a real problem there. But before you can ever get him down, you got a problem there. Not to mention his endurance is good. And your eyes might have told you something different tonight. Please trust me as a competitor. Paddy found himself in a match that was harder than he thought it was going to be, and he held up anyway. Said that he hurt his foot. I've got no reason to not believe him. Paddy looked really good tonight. He can go with those top lightweights. I can't straight give you a prediction. I'd have to know who it was. And then it'd probably be a little back and forth, and I'd be sitting on a fence because that's what we're seeing out of Paddy. We don't quite know. I mean, I'll tell you what about Sugar Sean O'Malley. He couldn't get a top guy to fight him. He has one fight, he becomes the number one ranked guy. I mean, it can happen fast, and we don't fully know. We get lost in that a lot. Well, this guy's not even ranked, or this guy's ranked number 17. You don't know who's who, and you never will. You never will. The only way to know in any sport is to have a competitive architecture in place. You must have a bracket. You must. You must have the field. You advance to a quarterfinals. You advance to the semifinals. You advance to a championship. It's the only way to do it, and we don't do that in this sport. So you don't ever actually know, and you got to be real careful with that. He hasn't beaten anybody in the top 10. That's what they said about Islam a month ago, just so you know. Said he didn't even belong there. 15-1. Oh, that's not good enough. Oh, it wasn't over top guys. Oh, he's finishing guys. Oh, he hasn't lost a single round. That's not good enough. And he goes out and he puts an end. He didn't lose a single round or a single minute, and he finishes who those same people were proclaiming was the best. So you start to see that difference, and you start to see where they start to play tricks on you guys. All right, Dana never said Conor versus Chandler. Dana confirmed Sterling versus Henry. That's a correction I'm being given to a fan. Now, time out. Time out. You might have typed that before I finished my thought. Within that same chain of thought, I did come in and say that Dana had used a word. And the word was looks like, or the word was probably, or the word is leaning, or the word was makes the most sense. And then he said Chandler for Conor. I'm aware, but I also said it the first time, that it was not an announcement. I just believe we can take that as an announcement because Conor has never said no to anybody. We know that Chandler would be game, and for the first time in this whole Conor sweepstakes, we have Dana presenting a name. So you're right. Dana did not confirm that. Now, Dana did confirm Sterling versus Henry. So did I. And I got to tell you, I told you guys that a week ago. Henry was putting it out. Sterling had announced it. Ali had announced it. Old Chael jumped on the phone with all three of them and then came to you guys and announced it. What do you know? They're fighting in March. Right? Do you remember us talking about it now? Every single fight that you've ever wanted to see, every single fight that's happened in 2023 is happening in March. Everybody that has a match, when are you going to fight? We're going to fight in March. It's one of these things. And just to remind you guys how that came about, it was not looking great for Henry. I mean, right, Henry wins, or rather defends his world championship. He walks away. He gives the thing up and he walks away. Then Henry comes back, but he's trying to do it at 145 pounds. And that was true. He really wanted to fight Volkanovski. He really wanted to go for the champ status. That was very sincere. And he got one step away. I don't know if this is inside information, but you probably haven't heard it. He got one step away where the UFC did tell Henry it goes through max. Don't even talk to us anymore about 145. You want to do 145? We'll let you fight for the world championship, but you got to understand this, Henry. It goes through max. If you're willing to fight max, we will commit to you that if you beat him, you can fight for the belt. But stop all the dialogue just so you know where we stand. You and 145 is Max Holloway or beat it. And it looked like Henry was going to have to beat it, but he started to shrink down. His mouth kept running, but his body kept getting leaner and better looking and more fit. And out of nowhere, Sterling beats Dillashaw. Dana goes to the press conference. They said, what's next for Aljo? And Dana said, probably going to be Henry. Like out of nowhere. Dana, it was resist, not talk about him. I don't even know if he's coming back. I don't know what's going on with USADA. He says that he's retired. All of a sudden, he makes that announcement. And you go, wow, that changed fast. So, yeah, we're going to have Sterling versus Henry. What do you guys think wins that, by the way? Because that layoff means something. Aljo's a lot better than we knew that he was, and that layoff means something. Who do you guys think wins that fight? All right, thoughts on Darren Till versus Duplessis. Well, guys, so this is a rumor. I don't have it confirmed, but it's a rumor that I believe. I believe it. This was Darren's last fight of his UFC contract. So, as of this moment, Darren is no longer in the UFC. I take no pleasure in saying that, by the way. But so you understand how that worked. If you're a young guy and you can draw, right, I mean, you're main card worthy. Doesn't matter what your record is. You've got an audience. You've got a base. To the fact that you get onto a main card, if you're that guy, they will re-sign you or they will attempt to re-sign you. Now, when you lost 4 of your last 5 without any evidence or any discussion, you know that if they attempted to re-sign you, you would have signed. You wouldn't have said, oh, I need more, or I need more opportunities. You would say, yes, thank you. You'd get that signed. You'd get that sent back. On the other side of it if the guy can go grab a victory, and Darren looked damn good tonight. It looked like he was going to grab one. It looked as though Duplessis had punched himself out and Till started to take charge. It looked as though, right, we've seen this a million times. Then the UFC comes in the back, says, hey, congratulations. Oh, by the way, your contract is out, right? They'd almost pretend like they didn't know. Oh, my God, hey, how'd this one slip? Hey, let's get you a new deal. I mean, just so you know, like, that's how it would work, and everybody would let everybody play along so that no feelings were hurt. You can imagine the awkward situation that you would be in. Now, that is just a rumor, but I believe it. It's one that I do believe that I think is going to go from rumor to confirmed, and I don't believe that Darren Till is in the Ultimate Fighting Championship anymore. I will talk about that fight because Till looked great. He really did look good. There was an announcement that came after this. I got to tell you, this really annoyed me. It really annoyed me. Right? I mean, you get all these experts. You get these experts to the point that you have to go to school and you have to put certain things down on a test or they don't give you the right grade. And as you get older, you realize, well, that's just the answer you want. Nobody really knows, right? They don't know who killed JFK, and it's on videotape. And they still can't tell you who did it, and the whole thing's on videotape. I mean, I just got to tell you, like, it's this interesting thing. So I want to read to you what happened when I tell you that I'm annoyed. Let me go over here to Twitter right now. So, an MMA site, I mean, a good, solid guy. It's called the MMA Media. This is on Twitter. And they got 16,000 followers. That's a real number. And they send out a tweet that says, Darren Till told the commentary desk that he tore his ACL during the fight. That's two sentences. There's two sentences. Sentence number one, Darren Till told the commentary desk. Okay, I watched the whole thing. Darren Till didn't speak to the commentary desk. Now, what's the mistake? He said it to Bruce Buffer. Okay, great. We're splitting hairs at this point. That's not a really big deal, but it's still wrong. And now, moreover, the second sentence, they're quoting Till, that he said that he tore his ACL during the fight. First off, he said it to Bruce Buffer. And secondly, he did not say that he did it during the fight. He did not speculate or even guess that he had done it in the fight. He told Bruce Buffer, I tore my ACL. That's a big statement, and that would work, and that would live on Twitter and social media the exact same. Darren Till tells Bruce Buffer, I tore my ACL. And then you create a speculation of when did that happen? Did it happen in the fight? Well, let's take a look there. You know, he got taken down kind of easy. Maybe it happened in the second round. There was a point where Till kicked and he set his foot down. It was a little weird. Like, this is how it works. It creates a whole dialogue. Dr. Abbasi comes on. He attempts to make a guess at what point Till's leg looked that way. Or Dr. Abbasi comes out and he says, you know what? I first noticed a little hitch in his giddy up as he was walking up the stairs to get into the cage. It becomes interesting. It becomes conversation. These guys tweet out, known as media. They literally call themselves out. The MMA Media. They put out two sentences. They're both wrong. And this is on tape. What would happen if there was no tape? What would happen if these guys were somewhere and we were left with their reporting to know what happened? We'd all believe it and we say it was confirmed and it came from the MMA Media. Two sentences on Darren Till, both of them wrong. I think that's a little bit weird. All right. Let's see here. Samara Khan was good. She's been going at it tonight. Samira Khan was on fire. Oh, her and Dylan Dennis got into it. What's that about? Dylan Dennis had a very mean line. Dylan Dennis said, oh, we gave the clap. That's what he did, the emoji clap, and said all that training with Chimaev sure has helped Till's wrestling. That's a great line by Dylan. I mean, that's a very mean line by Dylan at the time. Right at the time when it's this open room. Samara Khan tweets Dylan back. It was something about a chocolatier. I didn't fully get the comment, but I read the comments to her post, and apparently when Dylan got in that dust up and thrown out of a bar that like goes viral on TMZ, the guy that threw him out was a chocolate. I don't fully get it. Do you guys understand this one? Because the people that did get it, they loved it. They ate it up. It might have been the hottest thing on Twitter tonight. All right, I want a question from you guys. Let's see. Umar Gracie, Amanda Nunes would murder Patty. I know you're trying to be funny. I understand that. We're just going to leave it at that. All right. Patty attacked the takedown and reversed positions, but he lost in the striking for sure. Okay, I'll give you that. Jon Jones versus Rosas Jr. So I think that you're asking, like, not those two guys fighting. I think you're asking Jon's early career and the potential that he showed a couple of fights in versus Rosas Jr.'s potential that he's showing a couple of fights in. And I get the comparison, and that's a big compliment by you. Just some pleb. I don't know what pleb is. I actually think Nunes does beat Patty. Again, I'm walking away from it. The credibility that you lose, not just as a fight fit, like as a human being, I'm walking away from that one. That's a really stupid thing to say. I mean, really stupid. And you might actually, like, part of you believe that's a really stupid thing to say. I got a friend. I have never looked at him the same. Strong guy, he was a college football player, handsome guy. The girls loved him. This guy. And Dana had made a comment that Ronda Rousey could beat up Floyd Mayweather. And it was such a great comment from Dana. It was so brilliant to put his athlete over. What do you do if you're Floyd? How do you possibly respond if you're Floyd? It was just this wonderful moment where I stood back. I was so impressed with Dana. I really was. In that simple thing, I was so impressed, but this caught on. This went everywhere. And my buddy, who was a college football player, asked me who I thought would win if that actually happened, and then says to me, well, Ronda would kick my ass. And he was serious. He was serious. That's how he... I'm walking away. Uncle Chael, you're getting trolled. I can't believe it. Oh, is that what happened? Somebody's messing with me? All right, then I am getting trolled. Yeah, you know what? I'm glad. I'm glad to know that's a troll and that somebody doesn't... The world's a weak place, man. It's not what it used to be, I'll tell you what. Chael Superman Sonnen with the Clark Kent glasses. You know, that's as close to a compliment as I've ever gotten on these. So I tell you what, thank you. Chael, what are your thoughts? Jamal Hill versus Glover Teixeira. Well, it's interesting. And Dana White announced that at the press conference, but Samara Khan had actually tweeted out about 15 minutes before the press conference, and I don't know how she got her hands on that news, that it was going to be for the belt. Quite frankly, Jamal versus Glover, I did not know about. Did you guys? I didn't know about that. And I was with Glover last night. And I didn't know that fight was going to happen. Now, perhaps that was out there and it just went over my head. I missed it somewhere. But I damn sure didn't know it was going to be for the belt. And I'm convinced Glover and Jamal didn't know it was going to be for the belt. And I'm convinced Dana didn't know it was going to be for the belt. And when you have Jan Blachowicz blow his shot in the media that bad, do you lean towards Uncle Liev, or are you so frustrated with the stupidity in Blachowicz's comments that you just wash your hands with the both of them because you're pissed off? You don't have to answer that question. That answer's already in. All right. Duplessis wants to fight Paulo Costa. Duplessis weighs 210 on fight night. I would love to know how you know that. That's interesting to me. The guy got up to 210. Even setting that aside, Duplessis versus Paulo Costa is interesting. I can't go much further than that. Duplessis served himself very well tonight, and it was a slippery slope. Duplessis tried to finish Till. If you ever try to finish your opponent, you will not win the decision. Duplessis tried to finish him, and you saw it. He paid. And when you get that fatigued, when you have that kind of adrenaline dump, because there's also an aside, right? It's not just the fatigue of that energy you're using. There's now an emotional side where you start thinking it's going to be over. The referee's going to stop it. They're going to announce my name. I'm going to get the big check. I'm going to get a cut an interview with Joe Rogan. There's a level of excitement, and when that gets taken away from you, it's called an adrenaline dump. And that happened to Duplessis. And he needed to recover. And Darren Till started to look really good, until he didn't. All right, going to the third round, this thing's all tied up. This thing's tied up, and it's leaning Till. So good job by Duplessis. Him and Paulo Costa, I think that's a little bit of a stretch. Matchup-wise right now, Paulo Costa is a main event guy. I respect it. I respect it a lot. And Duplessis called out Paulo Costa. Make sure you understand this. Duplessis just called out the Terminator. One of the most feared guys in the division, possibly the most feared guy in the whole division is Paulo Costa, who, by the way, is busy. He's got his hands full with Robert Whittaker. That's what makes it a beautiful call-out by Duplessis. You get to look brave. You get to get the headline. You don't have to go do the fight. It's a smart thing. Duplessis might do just fine with Paulo Costa. I thought he looked very good tonight. Bryce Mitchell got smashed. I'm going to take that from you. That fight was going on. I had a couple of things going. UFC.com had Bryce Mitchell listed as 15-1. And I don't know who the one is. Oh man, I don't remember the one. So I typed it in on a Google search. Bryce Mitchell, that's all I typed in. And it pops up on Google. And the very first thing, it puts a little picture of him and it says 15-1. This is prior to the fight. So I looked into it a little further, which means I went to Errol Hawani, who said, no, he's never lost. He's undefeated. What happens on the Ultimate Fighter, just so you don't think you have to correct me, those are exhibitions. That doesn't go for you, against you. Those never happen on your official record. I don't know where the one was. And if he got whipped tonight, look, if he even lost, it's a surprising thing. And that's the guy, by the way. That's Mr. Hand Sanitizer. That's the guy that's into it with Patty. That dude's not a joke, man. He's not playing. That's a legit tough guy, and now he's got to win over Bryce Mitchell. Good for him. Chael, can you debate Bryce on the earth being flat? You know what? I hope I don't end up in that. And no, I wouldn't debate him. No. I would hear him out. Those are fun for me. I will simply tell you this. If the earth was flat, we would all have sun at the same time. All right. R.I.P. Goo Hogan. I don't get it, but I read it. All right, Chael's thoughts on McGregor versus Chandler. I love it. Conor is as hard to take down as anybody who's never wrestled. Any non-wrestler to ever do MMA. Not just who's currently doing it. Any MMA fighter who's never wrestled. Conor is as good as the best guy you could think of defensively. And Chandler gets as few of takedowns as any Division I All-American wrestler. So you really got to stand up fight, and that is interesting. Conor is a live dog against anybody on their feet. I think you're going to have some fun there watching that match. Patty won big time. Fair enough. Definitely not an argument that I want to have. That's not the hill I want to die on. I did not think it was a robbery. I thought Gordon won the fight. And I thought you could go as far as to say that he won every round. But they were close and they were competitive. And you could also have Patty. And people did. Rosenstrike versus Aspinall or Tuivasa. Come on. Comment of the night. Comment of the night by you. Excellent work right there. Aspinall still has the knee injury. So I don't think that you're going to see Tom versus Rosenstrike, but you just said Tuivasa. Brilliant work by you. I hope that rumor, let's start something, guys. Let's start that right here. We can make that happen. Who should Tuivasa fight next? Rosenstrike. Who should Tuivasa fight next? All right. Hey, you guys are into this. OSP versus Gustafsson. Is that announced? Are you asking me a fight that's announced? I haven't heard that one. Are you making a suggestion there? I don't know, so I can't respond to you. All right, here's a good one. Chael, any thoughts on why Hugh Janus wasn't in Gordon's corner? No, I don't have a thought on that. Chael, will the UFC ever come to Portland? They've been to Portland. They've been to Portland a couple of times. Randy Couture fought out here against Big Nogueira. It's the first time they came as a pay-per-view. They came again, had Lineker versus Dotson. That was a free TV. I'll tell you the problem with Portland. The Rose Garden, which is where you would hold these events, the Rose Garden is owned by the city. So when you put on events, the city then taxes you 6% of your live gate. Whatever you do at the live gate and ticket sales, you instantly, right off the top, the city takes 6% of the gross. Well, then you also have a state commission. The state commission takes the same amount, which is 6%. That's very common, very standard, makes very good sense. But now all of a sudden, you're out 12% just for the opportunity to do business. There's very few places worse to do business than Oregon. You go anywhere in the state of California, but Portland, it's a tough place to do business. Chael, stopped acting goofy. Agreed. I don't want to act goofy. Hugh James was meant to be there. Hugh Janus. Is there a joke going on here? Why are you guys bringing up Hugh Janus? Is that one of those jokes like Mike Hunt? Is that what you're doing right now, Hugh Janus? Because I don't get it. I don't get it, and I'm not familiar with Hugh Janus. All right. Glover versus Jamal in Brazil for the belt, confirmed by Dana. Welcome to 20 minutes ago. Parker in the Rocket League. Thoughts on Patty versus Hugh Janus? All right, somebody, Hugh Janus, what are they doing? What am I not hearing there? Emma, you're smiling. You get this joke. What's Hugh Janus? Help me. Don't be embarrassed. Hugh Janus. Hugh Janus? Hugh Janus? Ethan? Hugh Janus. So we've got ass.
Mm-hmm. Huge. Yeah.
Hugh Janus. That's Hugh Janus?
Uh-huh.
Well, if it was huge ass, it'd be one thing. It's anus?
Mm-hmm.
Anus?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're saying anus.
Yes.
This is like something that says penis, and then everybody laughs because now you said. I got to tell you, that's cheap work by you. I really did expect more. However, I'll also tell you, Miss Emma thought it was pretty good. So, I mean, all right. 1 out of 3 is not bad. All right, guys, look, it looks like we're winding down here, which is really just a nice way of saying I've had it with you all. I mean, this has kind of gone on a little bit too long. You got me on the Huge Janus joke. I hope that meant something. Glover's going to be taking on Jamal Hill. Jan Blachowicz took his own nuts out and stomped on them, which I take as a direct insult. Call me as narcissistic as you want. I also thought that he won the fight. I thought he did more damage. I thought he won 1 through 3. I spoke to 3 licensed judges that all said he won 1 through 3 and should have won the fight. Chael. I popped my pants. All right, don't get it. Chael, buy some Updog. All right, chances the UFC in Philadelphia. All right, I got to tell you, I mean, a lot of times you guys come through with some really good questions and we have some fun here. Tonight, you've kind of dropped the ball. I've had it with you all. Goodbye.